fortify ourselves with.
We're
By
fortified.
the way, I know we're recording already, but I don't think we need to do updates.
I don't think we need to either.
Yeah, so we'll just skip that part.
We'll say greetings, and then we'll tell people.
All right.
This is the update.
Okay.
Update-isode. I'm Reverend Michael Lantzman,
And I'm Father Andrew Stephen Daming.
and you're listening to the Areopagus.
Hey, what's up, Areopagites? We're back in the studio now. We're not on the train this time.
We are in America.
After being, what's the term? I'm not entrepreneurs. We're trailblazers.
Trailblazers,
doing Ancient Faith Radio podcasts on a train. I can't guarantee we'll ever do that again.
We
might.
I would
might.
like to do it again.
That would be cool.
We did some recordings in the car as well, but those were just audio.
Just audio.
Yeah, and those will probably come up on a different channel.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
But yes, so this actually does connect with our previous episode in that in the previous episode we were on the train on our way to the town of Oban.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Oban we were getting a ferry to Mull, and then in Mull we got on a bus all the way across, and then going to Iona the next day. And in this episode, we're now back in the U.S. From our trip to Scotland and Northumbria, and we're going to be talking about what we experienced and reflecting on a number of elements of that. So because it's about that, and essentially this is what we were doing recently together. We're not going to have an updates section in this particular episode. So
you don't need to know what happened at my church while I was gone. Not a lot.
I mean,
a couple things.
Yeah,
a couple sick people and a death, but
I mean, you didn't even put that stuff in the bulletin, do you?
Well, deaths I put in the on the Facebook page so people can come to the funeral.
So what's up with you, Father Andrew? Well, I cleaned the bathroom this morning, and everybody needs to know about that on this podcast.
What kind of bleach wipes do you use?
Yeah.
We find that the generic ones from Walmart work very well.
Yeah, exactly. So
why pay extra for Lysol when you can just get Equate?
So if you're just tuning in and you didn't listen to our previous episode and you don't follow us on all the things everywhere nonstop with notifications on,
number one, good for you.
Number two,
being able to separate
what's wrong
from
with
the
you?
internet. Number two, why are you the way that you are?
Why are you the way that you are? So Pastor Mike and I, and also our friend Deacon Seraphim Rowland, we journeyed to the UK. Deacon Seraphim flew from Dallas. We flew from Newark in New Jersey. And we arrived in Glasgow in Scotland. And there we met up with my friend, Father Jacob Siemens, who is an Orthodox priest originally from Canada.
Who's not my friend.
And yes, we've all made friends now. But he serves in Cardiff in Wales. And I actually went on pilgrimage with him last summer to various places in Wales. And we connected and we traveled to a number of different places in Scotland together, and then to Northumbria, which is northern England. Northumbria being one of the ancient Old English kingdoms before there was really an England.
Correct, yes.
And now it's largely taken up by what's called Northumberland County. And we visited many holy places and met the saints. In a number of cases went to shrines connected with those saints.
Stumbled across shrines and holy places that we kind of suspected were in the area, but didn't quite know where.
Or in some cases didn't even know were there.
Yeah.
And then we suddenly saw a sign or something like that.
It's like, oh, an abbey.
Yeah, exactly. Or, we stopped to get breakfast and, oh, wow, there's this incredible ruin from the medieval period right across the street.
And like 2 miles down the road from an abbey, there's a church with a cemetery where a battle was fought. And the abbot from the monastery 2 miles down the road came to this location to debate John Knox about theology.
As one should.
As one should. Boo on
So
John Knox. Boo.
yes, what we were doing there, we weren't. So we were on pilgrimage. The main purpose was to venerate, which in Greek, the Greek word for pilgrimage is proskinema, which means veneration. But also we were there on behalf of Ancient Faith Radio, and we were making a documentary, and we were gathering up lots and lots of footage and audio recordings and photographs and all this kind of stuff. And so first, just give a big plug. Everybody subscribe to The Orthodox Pilgrim on YouTube. There is also an Orthodox Pilgrim podcast that is audio only. You can subscribe to that. The content is not exactly the same.
Correct.
The Orthodox Pilgrim podcast already has several documentaries connected to it. So you can listen to those now. And then the YouTube is sort of, now we're kind of creating an Orthodox Pilgrim universe. Right? You know, they'll have different elements in different places.
The AFPU.
Yes. That sounds a little gross.
Ancient Faith Pilgrimage
Universe.
AFPU.
Yeah, so everybody subscribe to Orthodox Pilgrim on YouTube. If you want to see the immediate fruits of what we're doing, it's already there. But you should also subscribe to the podcast, the audio podcast, because there's other stuff there as well. But what we're here today to do is to reflect on what we experienced on our pilgrimage. And actually the video version of this, because there is now, the Areopagus is now going up on my YouTube channel.
Yep.
Hey, YouTube.
It's about time, right, guys?
How you doing? We're going to list, because YouTube has this cool new feature called Collaborator or Collaboration or whatever, where you can actually have a second or even third or fourth or fifth channel, and they all kind of get credit for the video on some level. So we're going to make Orthodox Pilgrim a collaborator on this, because people who subscribe to that are going to want to hear this as well, because this is connected to our pilgrimage. So we're going to kind of go through a few different categories. I thought this is a good way to sort of shape our conversation today. First and foremost, for Orthodox Christians, for historical Christianity in general, pilgrimage is about saints. It's about saints. So I thought I would ask you, we're just kind of ask these questions of each other. Who are some saints that you met? Maybe for the first time, or maybe just finally like, so this is who you are. You know, some that really struck you along the way, Michael.
That's a really good question. Before I answer that, can I posit an introductory question or introductory remarks before getting into that?
Oh, sure, of course, absolutely.
About like, why would somebody who's not Orthodox or Catholic go on pilgrimage in the first place?
Why would you go on pilgrimage?
I just thought of that right now. Well, you asked me to, and
and you're just obedient.
And
to
I'm obedient. I'm like, yes.
Wow, how should I use this power?
Command me, Lord. So I remember, I've been thinking about this since I've been back, and well, even when I was on the trip. And I remember even back in Bible college, he was like one of the most word-faithy professors that we had. Interestingly, he passed away recently, but he left all that behind and became a Reformed pastor and later on in life. But I remember him making a comment, something along the lines of, you know, a lot of times when we read church history or whatever, we dog, you know, the Catholics and the Orthodox for doing things like pilgrimages and going to these places and like venerating relics and so forth. And then he's like, what do you think you're doing when you're following around your favorite teacher to whatever conference they're going to, so you can get a touch from God? It's like, can't God just like be with you where you are? Like, why do you have to go and find that one special guy and get him to touch you so you can like fall down or whatever? And he made other comments similar to this throughout the years there. And that popped up in my mind, like, why go on pilgrimage? And he's essentially, even though he probably wouldn't be behind the idea 100%, that idea of pilgrimage still existing in a albeit though in a different form is kind of there for non-traditional expressions of the faith.
Everybody goes on pilgrimages.
Yeah.
I mean, people go on pilgrimage to Graceland because they think Elvis is special. Like,
well, sure,
why go to the place?
Yeah.
There's some, I mean, however you want to think about it, like, why do people go to historical sites where this thing, like Independence Hall, we have that here in Pennsylvania.
Go see the Liberty Bell.
And you can stand there and say, wow, that's where Ben Franklin sat and debated with John Adams.
Yeah, at Durham Cathedral, we saw the Magna Carta, you know?
Yeah, we saw early drafts of the Magna Carta.
Like,
it's funny. Like, yes, the Reformation really got down on pilgrimage. And the reality is, it's just a human thing. It's just a human thing that people do.
Yeah.
There's something about pilgrimage that it takes you outside of yourself. Having that direct physical connection with something that in many cases is a historic event or person.
Yeah. You know what's interesting was being there and wanting to touch things. You know, like you could do that at say like Bede's tomb and some other places.
Oh, yes.
You could actually touch the tomb, and I have a prayer rope, and I laid my prayer rope on it, and prayed.
That's because you're the worst Protestant ever.
I mean, that's true.
That's the real reason you came on pilgrimage.
That's true. I am the worst Protestant ever. And yeah.
Sorry.
I should do a YouTube channel. I've trademarked that, so it's my idea. So if you do it, I'm going to sue you. But if you listen to when that gets released, the wrap up of the pilgrimage between the four of us, like we talk about this, and I talk about my attitude going in was not one of skepticism, like this stuff can't be true. My whole motivation going in was I'm going to just take this as honestly and as openly as I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on this pilgrimage as if I've bought into everything and as if all of this is true, and because I want to experience it in a way that's going to be similar to the way that you guys are going to be experiencing it, although there'll be some differences we can talk about in a little bit. But that was my attitude going in, is like, I'm not going to stand back and just watch. Like if I'm here, I don't want to be a spectator, because being there and seeing actual spectators, it made me think of the difference between going there like on vacation and coming to see these where the relics are or whatever as a tourist, versus coming there as a pilgrim, as coming there to encounter those who encountered God. And so that was kind of my whole attitude, like going in. And so I've been making those connections in my mind the past couple of weeks with, things that I've heard, decades ago now, like even back when I was in my, charismatic word faith days, is to see how that stuff has carried through, and trying to help people find, maybe if you're not Orthodox or Roman Catholic or Anglican or whatever, and you are more non-denominational or Baptist or something like that, I believe that you can get spiritual benefit from going on pilgrimage. I think you just have to just mash down the skepticism and just sort of go with an open heart and just be open to receive whatever it is that God may or may not have for you while you're there.
Well, this reminds me of one of we're going to talk about this. We had a lot of unexpected encounters, but when you're on pilgrimage, the happenstance encounter, the chance meeting,
right? Yeah.
is part of the experience.
It's like in Lord of the Rings.
Yes, right.
Right?
Just like that. Yes.
Like the hobbits, they just bump into Faramir.
But there was not a single instance when we asked someone that we met, "Hey, would you talk into our cameras? Can we talk to you?" That no one said no. Everyone said yes, which was such a blessing, I think. And I don't just mean like, oh, it was such a blessing, but really, I think that God and the saints were with us, and we're making, we're influencing all these things happening. But so there was a woman that we met in Lindisfarne as we were walking around, and I could tell that she felt a certain tension because she could see that we were not her kind of Christian.
Yes.
And, and she was asking, like, do you believe this?
She was asking, like, do you believe the gifts of the Spirit?
Yeah. And it turns out that she was a Baptist of some sort. But what was really interesting is I asked her, now, why did you come here?
Yeah.
And it turned out that, of course, that day, we were really surprised. Lindisfarne was full of people.
Yeah, packed.
And it's because apparently the English schools had the day off or the week off, but also the weather was surprisingly really good. And so, of course, people go to these kind of vacation spots, which Lindisfarne is. Like, it's a nice day holiday place. It's just beautiful to go to, no matter what you think about the site itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what its historical and Christian significance is. But I asked her, I was like, what are you doing here? And she said, well, I came here because I'm considering moving to this area. And then she said, but I think I found out that this place is holy.
How? How did that happen?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I know it's on the sign, the Holy Island.
It's called Holy Island.
It is called the Holy Island on the maps.
How did it happen? It's because of the presence of the saints. It's because of the work of God in those places. It's not just, oh, here's some nice, sandstone Benedictine ruins, or even, this amazing statue of Saint Aidan, which she kind of, she was very politely criticizing. She's like, oh, I see this stone statue, and I think about having a heart of stone, and God will give you a heart of flesh.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and I was thinking, I didn't say this to her, but I thought, well, don't you think the people who made this statue believe that too?
Right, yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
like this doesn't mean you should have a heart of stone.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it was interesting to kind of watch her struggling a little bit
Yeah.
with the place, but also realizing that it was holy. And so I think that connects with what you were saying. Like someone could be non-Orthodox, non-Catholic, or not having pilgrimage as part of their tradition, and yet still, like, I don't think she went there on pilgrimage that day, from what she
Right.
said, but still have a pilgrimage experience.
Yes.
Still encounter the holy
Yes.
and venerate it in whatever way you're able, whether it's just sort of being respectful while you're there, or going whole hog as us
Yeah.
Orthodox Christians do, and we like to kiss everything. So, yeah. So okay. Well, that's good initial. Do you have anything more that you wanted to add as preface?
No, I think that's good.
All right. So tell me then. Some saints that you met
Saints that I met.
that that you didn't
All
know
right.
before, or didn't really know very well. at
So
all.
Seraphim prepared us with a very thorough booklet that we all had and carried around with us and read from. I was surprised initially when we found that priory on the way to St. Ninian's cave. So I remember, and this will
The
be
one in Whithorn, or you're talking about? You're talking about
on the way
Cross
to Whithorn.
Ragul Abbey?
Yes.
Yes, which we just saw this ruin.
Yeah, on the side of the road.
This abbey
Yeah.
on the side of the road and just pulled
Yes.
over. Okay,
And then
yeah,
a couple
yeah.
miles down the road was that churchyard,
Kirk
Oswald, where there was a battle there, and that's where the abbey from the monastery had theological disputes with John Knox, and it's other important sites there as well because there's some people from some works of literature that were buried there.
I could feel my sorry Calvinists getting stronger just by standing
Yeah.
there.
So we went in and the churchyard, and I remember, you guys are walking around and taking video, and I'm walking around. I did a little video, and we're all taking pictures and kind of separated in the cemetery as we're all wandering. And I remember I came around to the back of the church, and you found me over there, and you started talking to me, and the whole time I'm like, wow, there's something about this place. I don't know what it is about this place. This place is beautiful. Like, what is this? And I'm like, look at the landscape. Look at the scenery. It's gorgeous. Look at these rolling hills and look at all those little sheep dotting the landscape. And something about this place is just so moving. And then you started talking to me, and then you said, St. Ninian is buried here.
Oh, I think you're
somewhere.
conflating two places. So he's not at Kirk Oswald.
Okay.
But probably at St. Ninian's Priory.
At the
is
Priory.
is the tradition. Yeah. But yeah, so you're thinking about that
Oh,
later
yes.
conversation. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so after, that's right. Sorry, I'm mixing it all
So
together.
St. Ninian's Priory is
Yeah.
in Whithorn is a place that we went
That's
on
where
purpose.
that's where we went
That's
on
where we were
purpose.
headed. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, I got all that mixed up.
Yep.
So the priory we went to in Whithorn, that's where we were looking around. We did look at the other place, and it was important, and all that stuff is true about Knox and the battle and stuff.
Yeah.
But the priory in Whithorn is where, so anyway, we're walking around, we're looking around, taking video, and I'm like, something about this place, I don't know, it's beautiful. So I'm thinking, yeah, wow, the scenery. And then you came around and we're talking, and you're like, yeah, St. Ninian's probably buried here somewhere in an unmarked grave. And I went, and then something clicked, and I was like, oh, that's what that is. And you're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I've been having this weird feeling ever since I got here, and I thought I was appreciating the scenery and how beautiful everything was. Oh, okay. And it just clicked. Okay, there's something about this place that feels different. And it was there with me when I got there without any prompting, and just walking around and just praying a little bit and, taking photos. That surprised me a little bit. And I think that conversation and being there in that priory sort of shaped or gave form to how I would experience the rest of the pilgrimage.
Oh. So the way I would interpret that,
Yeah.
or could interpret it, might be to say that for you, that Saint Ninian was your patron for the pilgrimage.
Yeah,
That he formed that initial impression.
I think so. Yeah,
And then
yeah,
enlivened your experience from there on out.
I think so. Yeah, I think that was the initial okay, this is very different than me being in Rome and taking pictures of the Colosseum or something like that.
Yeah, there's saints in Rome, but I haven't been there yet, but my impression is that it's so overwhelmed by basically tourism.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful, but it's there's tons of people there.
So then, apart from like that, was that the first place you've been where there's saints' bones potentially there?
Well, I mean, if you're not counting churches that I've been to that have had relics inside.
Yeah, some relics.
But this is very different
like-
than that. Like, there's some churches I've been into, there's like, oh, there's a sense of holiness here. Like, this is definitely a place of prayer and so forth.
Saint Ninian. So just for those who are maybe tracking us for historical accuracy, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not known that his relics are there now, but he definitely was buried there at one point, and it may be that the relics were moved to another area,
Right.
in that same location. But he definitely was. There was a shrine to Saint Ninian there, and it was a place of pilgrimage. But yeah, so his presence, from a spiritual point of view, his presence is still very much there.
Yeah.
Whether his bones are actually still there or not, I like to believe that they are there.
Yeah, I would like to think so as well. And I'm kind of sad that it didn't click for me until just right now that shaped everything. I feel like because we were tired, we had like picked up Seraphim from the airport the night before and had a long dinner.
And the original plan was we were going to spend that day just sort of chilling out and maybe visiting a few places around Glasgow.
Yep.
And I was just like,
let's go.
No,
we got to go. And I remember I think it was Father Jacob on the way back. He was like, I didn't really want to come to like do all this driving today, but he's like, I'm glad that we did.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, this is good. It was good for us to be here.
Yeah.
At the cave, and the cave itself was just spectacular. So I think Saint Ninian shaped that experience at that priory, sort of gave shape to how I would experience basically everything else on the trip. And in some ways about the same, and then some ways even stronger in certain locations with certain people.
Yeah.
But that general sense of started like there.
Yeah.
At that priory for me.
Yeah, I mean, Saint Ninian, there's relatively little known about him, actually. But nonetheless, what is known is that he's probably the first Christian missionary in Scotland. And he's the first Christian bishop in Scotland.
Yes.
And that by itself makes it fascinating. And Whithorn is down on the coast in the southwest corner of Scotland. So we had to drive. We drove there from Glasgow. It was about, I don't know, if we had not stopped, it would have been about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, what was amazing is that we stopped, and yeah, it was a tiring day. And then going out to his cave was difficult, very difficult to make that walk along the beach.
Yeah. Oh man.
It's basically a beach of pebbles.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
trying
wet
to walk
pebbles,
on that was.
And it's hard to walk on that. Like it's really tough on the ankles But we made it, and there was a lot of wind and rain coming.
It was coming straight at us, because you have that walk through the forest,
and
then as you leave the forest, like there's like this wooded path, and then all of a sudden the trees start to give way, and then it's just clear, and you have like these two hills on the side, and then there's a path
perfect and
right through the middle, and there's pictures of it posted already if you go and see. And I took pictures of you guys kind of walking far ahead, like through the gap. And then you come through that path, and then there's just this massive beach of stones. And the wind and the waves, and it was hitting us in the face.
What was wild is, all the research and whatever that we've been doing afterwards, because we're working on the documentary, is I came across an icon of Saint Ninian. And I shared this with you. And in it, there's like in the lower right, there's basically a crack in a rock. Yeah. And it's the cave. It's like,
I've been there.
We went there. We went to that place that's in that icon.
Yeah.
It's just kind of it was Father Jacob who pointed that out to me. He sent it back to me with a red circle around. He's like, and think you were just here.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That is very cool.
I would say there's two saints that I met. One I'd heard of before and I knew some things about, but I'd never really encountered him as a saint. I had thought of him as a historical figure. I knew he was a saint, but it really didn't click for me until we went, and that's Saint Oswald.
Okay.
So Saint Oswald was a king of Northumbria. I mean, on my first pilgrimage to the UK, which was really my first pilgrimage, back in 2001, I went to Durham Cathedral, where the head of Saint Oswald is buried with Saint Cuthbert in his tomb, which you can attest even today. There's no sign there indicating that.
Right. It just says Cuthbert on the stone.
It just says, Cuthbertus, and the Latin version of his name. But also there are relics, the major relics of St. Aidan are there as well. And apparently, according to one of the local clergy we talked to, some relics of the Holy Innocents as well, which that's incredible. So I had venerated him before, but I really had, back in 2001, I had no concept of who he was.
Yeah.
None. I just I was just heard, the head of Oswald is in this grave. And then, in last couple years, actually thanks to a book recommendation from Father Jacob,
Yeah.
he recommended this awesome series, these 3 books called the Northumbrian Thrones
Oh yeah.
trilogy or something
Yeah, you
like
told me
this.
about those. So they're on my list now. From
You should
Amazon, yeah.
totally read it because each one is about a saint who was a king: Saint Edwin, Saint Oswald, and Saint Oswia. And the second one is about Saint Oswald, and I have to say I liked him best. They're historical novels, but the guy who wrote it as a historian, wrote him as a historian, and then there's a sort of an epilogue at the end of each one explaining how, in what ways he departed from the historical record,
Right.
and why he did that. But otherwise, following it pretty closely. Sainted kings are kind of a problem.
Right. Especially for academics.
Yeah, well, even for Christians.
Yeah, that's
Christians,
true.
Because
Like Constantine.
right, or Justinian. I mean, the problem is to be a king. To be a king generally means you're killing people.
Yeah. Why isn't Arthur a saint?
Um,
If you know the answer to that, Areopagus, please call in.
right. Who is Arthur exactly?
He's king of the Britons.
Yeah, king of the.
And we're all
king of
Britons.
who?
Good lady.
I didn't vote for you. So
I gotta say, being there in Scotland and making those jokes made them feel more real.
and
Northumbria.
And of
making
course,
those
the
jokes.
thing was like when we were in Oban, we didn't even realize that we were only like 10, 20 miles away from the castle.
And then later on, I'm like, "Hey, can we go to the castle of And I'm like, "Nah, we should have done
we were
that
near there, but we didn't have time to go
next
there.
time, baby."
Sainted rulers is always kind of it can be a difficult category if you don't understand the breadth of the way that the Christian tradition works.
A sticky wicket, as it
Making
were.
someone a saint does not mean you approve of everything they ever
Right.
did. And it doesn't even necessarily mean that they were particularly
Good.
No, it's probably good, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you would meet them and think, oh, this is a holy person, like you might if you met like a holy monk or nun or something like this, where it's a little bit more kind of on the surface and so forth. Sometimes kings are canonized because of the great works that they did for the church, for the cause of the gospel. Some of these kings are called equal to the apostles for this reason. And honestly, I would argue actually based on St. Oswald's sponsorship and promotion of Christianity in Northumbria and many pagans being baptized, I think we should call him equal to the apostles for that reason, because he functioned in this evangelistic way.
Yeah.
But actually, if you read Bede's account of Oswald, it actually turns out he was a good king in a Christian sense. Not just like a good administrator or whatever, but like a good man.
Sure.
And was very generous. And there's even a story about Saint Aidan, like that with his hand, he was being so generous that Saint Aidan blessed his hand and said, "May this hand never wither." And so then there's this tradition about his hand remaining incorrupt after that.
Oh yeah. So
I mean, I learned all this stuff when we were kind of on the road. Thanks a lot, frankly, to Deacon Seraphim's research, but also things we learned along the way. And I just became impressed with him. And I was like, okay, I really like this guy, and of course the whole thing where he's got a raven as a companion.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Well, given where he given how widespread his activities were in the area, like what place did it become like? Did he become super real for you? Like, what's the place where you think like, oh, I've met him here?
Oh, that would be Heavenfield.
Okay. Oh yeah, at the very end.
Which of course, what a great, amazing name that is.
Yeah.
So since we're talking about Oswald, I mean, I didn't come into this pilgrimage thinking, okay, I'm going to learn more about Saint Oswald and meet Saint Oswald. It wasn't. There's so many saints to meet.
Yeah.
Of course, we focused on a number of really big ones that we knew. We didn't just show up and say, where will we go today? It was very planned.
Yes.
But on our final day in the UK, we were driving from Whitby to Glasgow, and we stopped at Hexham along the way, which was also a place I didn't really know hardly anything about. And then come to find there's like 7 saints associated with Hexham. Like, what? Yeah.
That
That was great. But then I saw on the map, it's like, okay, we're going to be near Hadrian's Wall in many places. And so even though that wasn't really connected with our Christian pilgrimage, I was like, okay, it's Hadrian's Wall, everybody.
Yeah.
Let's go find a chunk
Yeah,
of it to
let's
stand
see
next to and record something.
We're driving on this way home.
Exactly.
It's there.
So we point the GPS at a place that says Hadrian's Wall, and we get there, and it's the beginning of a footpath. And it seems from the local sign that was there, it was going to be like a kilometer or two, which is weird because they have both kilometers and miles there.
Yeah.
We were mainly trying to get back to Glasgow, and so what we wanted was just a place to kind of pull off.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, we don't want to walk a long distance. So we thought, okay, well, we're going to find someplace else, but there was a sign at that same spot that was just on the side of the road.
That's right.
And it said, it was like a little wooden sign with an arrow pointing, and it said Heavenfield 1.5 miles. I was like, and then a memory clicked in the back of my head. I was like, Heavenfield, isn't that associated with St. Oswald? And I said, I got back in the car. I said, that thing says Heavenfield 1.5 miles, and that's the direction we're driving. Let's go. And so we went the 1.5 miles, and we get there, and there's this big cross right next to the road.
That's right.
And then up on the hill, in the middle of a field with a bunch of sheep, is a church.
And the sign says open. And
it says open, and it's dedicated. The church is dedicated to St. Oswald, and that is the very place where St. Oswald was fighting a battle against Cadwalla, who was actually another Christian king, a king of the Britons, a Welsh king basically, who was allied with Penda of Mercia, who was a pagan.
Yeah.
And they were trying to destroy Oswald. They were kind of trying to destroy the Northumbrian kingdom and take it for themselves. And while he was there, Oswald had a vision of St. Columba, who told him that he was going to win this battle and that he was going to be able to spread Christianity throughout Northumbria as a result. And so he erects this huge cross on the spot, and then all his men kind of look to it, and they hold it up, and they're able to win this battle.
Yeah.
So there's some shades of Constantine there, and then this wooden cross that was there, of course, was not the cross that Oswald erected. I mean, that's like 1400 years ago.
Yeah.
But it was a memorial, that was raised on the same spot. And so there we were in Heavenfield, and I would say that's the place that I felt like I met him. And it was not the first time. I mean, you mentioned Kirk Oswald earlier, which was on our first day. So he was there on our first day and then our last day. And then, of course, we venerated the place where his head is buried there in Durham. And so for me, he was with us, a lot, but I wasn't looking for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be, I think, and it was the happenstance meeting, the chance meeting, but clearly blessed by the saints. Clearly we were supposed to go there, even though we hadn't planned on going there.
Can we take a second to just do an excursus on being blessed by the presence of a saint?
Yeah.
I think that might be helpful maybe for some of our listeners. So,
a little woo.
Maybe a little woo. And part of it is some of our
just mumbo jumbo.
Right. Well, some of our listeners are going to be coming from, a Reformed tradition, so it's soli Deo Gloria, God, glory to God alone.
They're still with us.
No, they're still with us. They love us. And so one of the ideas being that any glory that humans have detracts from God's glory.
Yeah.
And so I think it's probably a good thing to say that when we're talking about like the presence of a saint, having the saint's presence there doesn't detract from God's glory at all, because it's God's glory that they're sharing in.
It's simply a fulfillment of the prayer of Jesus to his Father, his great high priestly prayer there in the Gospel according to St. John, where he asks God to give his disciples the glory that that the Father gave to him.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
it's not. It is the glory of God.
It is the glory of God.
It's not a competition.
And God being glorified through, I think, the saints actually brings even more glory to God.
Yeah,
not detracts from it.
God is
because
glorified.
It points us to the one from whom all grace and love and life and light and mercy come from.
He's glorified in his saints.
Right. I think it's important to note that in case somebody's listening and they're like,
The saints are always pointing us to God.
I sounded like a goat there. I don't know what that was, but I don't know.
There were decidedly not that
Little
many
Billy
goats
Goat
in our
Gruff.
pilgrimage. Lots of sheep.
There were.
And even the one time we actually ordered a goat at a restaurant.
And we ate it. No, we didn't eat it. We had to eat
didn't
mutton.
have goat. In fact, our waitress,
right.
it was so funny. She said, well, you know, there's a storm down in
Yeah.
the Caribbean where we would normally get, and she says, I don't understand why they can't use good English goats.
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, exactly. But we had mutton instead, and
It was
just fun.
mutton curry. I mean,
was very, very
it was
good.
fantastic.
So
Not a huge fan of the curry fries, though.
yeah. Oh, you weren't into that, huh?
No, but the mutton curry was
interesting.
fantastic.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is there another saint that you sort of met? I know there's probably for a bunch.
Yeah.
I have one other one I want to mention, but
I would say Columba. I would say Columba, and then probably. Well, I'll just talk about Columba.
Okay.
So I didn't know anything really about Columba before this trip. Like I've heard the name before, and I've heard him referenced.
In terms of Celtic saints,
yeah,
he's the man.
He is the man.
Like
right?
he is almost almost. I think I can say he's really the greatest of them all in terms of how he's come down to us.
I think so. Yeah,
in tradition.
So like I didn't even know he was a man. Like I hear Columba, I hear the A at the end, and
Sounds
I think
like
that's
a
a female
feminine
saint, right?
It
So
means dove is what it means, and there's Columcilla, which is what it is in. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it, but in Irish Gaelic.
Yeah, there's Columcilla Park here in Pennsylvania, where you can go see. No, just kidding. Don't go there. It's terrible.
No, it's fine. It's a nice place to take a walk.
It is.
But now that you've been to Iona, don't you understand when I say that place has nothing to do with Iona?
Now that I've been to Iona and I have seen with my own eyes, I want to go back to that place and like fix it. You know what I mean? Like, let's buy it and change it into like. You know, put a church there, a chapel, and not like one of these ecumenical, new agey things, like a real chapel.
It's a 1970s new agey thing.
Yeah. All right, so Columba, I didn't really know anything about. I had heard of Columba, but not really. Okay. For me, for Columba was when we went to the Abbey, and
on Iona,
and Iona itself was a magnificent place. Just a very different character stepping off the ferry, going there, and just like
we'll talk locations. In a bit.
We'll talk locations in a minute. Yeah. So there at the Abbey, attached to it is a very small chapel, and you can't really fit a lot of people inside. And you kind of have to duck your head in a little bit, and
maybe 4 or 5.
And it was a little chapel, and in there was a place where his relics were housed.
Yeah,
and then originally were housed there, and they were kept there, and then they were brought places, and they were always brought back there. But with the Viking raids, they're like, we need to protect these, so they sent the relics away, and now I think they're in Ireland.
Yeah, St. Columba's relics, the main relics are, and I think there are particles that are out.
Sure.
But the main relics are in a place called Downpatrick.
Yeah.
So Downpatrick is in northeastern. I'm just mentioning this for other pilgrims.
Yep.
We didn't go there, but I've been there, but that was 24 years ago. Downpatrick is in northeastern Ireland. It's in Northern Ireland, the part that is the UK. And that is the place where St. Patrick landed.
Yeah.
I think when he was brought as a slave, but maybe also when he came back too. And so there's called the Great Hill of Down, and there's a Church of Ireland church on the top there, so an Anglican Irish church. According to tradition, down deep in the hill, St. Patrick, St. Columba, St. Bridget.
Okay.
I was like, man,
all of them
like
there.
Those are the big Irish saints.
Yeah, you know? They are.
So yes.
So his main relics were gone. So, but there was still, like, I remember going into the chapel and just being like completely overwhelmed. And I just sat there for a little while, and you guys, I think, did some filming, and I was just sitting inside, and I was just struck by the location and the place, and I just felt moved to. There was a Bible on the stand, and it was open to Philippians, and so I just flipped a couple pages, and then you actually filmed me reading the passage that St. Paul wrote about Christ self-emptying, humbling himself. You know, the kenosis chapter verses there in Philippians, and I read those there in the chapel. And being there, I don't know what it was. That's where I feel like, for me, like I had a sense of Columba, the strongest. It was like, for me, was like right there in that place.
Leave a mark.
And just sitting there And like, I'm not going to even like, I just sat there with like my prayer rope and I'm just praying. And like we did so much praying on this trip.
Especially
like,
and I would say, well, we're going to talk locations, but
Yeah.
since you're mentioning it, especially on Iona.
yeah, like,
Iona, I felt
Yeah.
anyways, compelled to
yeah,
pray.
like you were
you
leading
must.
us in prayer while we were walking to the beach. Like an Athonite style. And like, throughout the trip, I had my hand in my jacket pocket, just on my prayer rope, praying to myself while we were walking places, like just trying to be prayerful as much as I could. But I'll say encounter with Columba in that chapel was unexpected. Just how strong it was in there. And that stuck with me. And then it made me angry when I went into the Abbey, but that's another story for another time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, we
don't
should
need to
just
talk
say
about
that the Abbey, there's something called the Iona
Yeah.
community, and it's this ecumenical thing.
God bless them for keeping it up
Yes,
and
yes.
taking care of it. It's so important.
It dates from the early 20th century, I think, that this Iona community.
Yeah, I
But it's
think,
become very, it's
if
Yeah.
you've gone to mainline Protestant services, you'll
very
be
boomery.
It's very much in that vein. But I'm glad they're there taking care of it and keeping the stuff preserved. But there is some silliness in the Abbey. But even in spite of the silliness in the Abbey, there's also little pockets where the silliness is
Absolutely.
completely absent.
Yep.
And there was a statue, it's funny, of St. Columba in there that had been broken. And so there was this gaudy, modern wire, representation of him.
Oh, yeah, it was just his feet that were left from the original
Yes,
statue.
it's just his feet that are all were left of the original statue, and then there's this wire monstrosity above it. I'm like, why can't we have nice things?
Why can't you just
Make another one?
complete the statue?
Yeah, just complete the statue.
Restore the statue.
So I took a little bit of time and venerated the feet and
Yeah, same.
and prayed a little bit in there and just walked around and it was a beautiful. The Abbey's beautiful, and there's a little chapel, the chapel for Saint Michael, attached to it. It was open. I went in and prayed a little bit in there. But yeah, I think Columba, I would say Ninian and Columba were big for me, and I'll say
met some of the big ones.
and Bede as well. Bede surprised me because I've read Bede, but Bede became for me, okay, this isn't just somebody I've read on the page. Like this dude's legit,
Yeah. Well, that brings us then into
Yeah.
like the second question,
Yeah.
which is saints that you plan to get to know better.
Yeah.
And so for me, actually, Bede is the one. So I just have to flash my copy of Bede I have here.
Yeah.
Actually, I weirdly have two copies. Yeah, I've read Bede before. I was kind of aware of him. I know his place. Like, he's the one who writes the history. The main thing he's known
Yeah.
for is this book,
Right.
The Ecclesiastical History of the English People. A lot of what's in there is saints' lives.
Yes.
So he's a hagiographer. But I learned a lot of stuff about. I knew he was a scholar, but my understanding of his scholarship was mainly as a historian. But actually, it turns out that he was what we would also call a scientist.
Right.
Like he worked out, the tides and the moon and all this kind of stuff that, from what I understand, actually, a lot of his research forms the basis of the development of certain parts of modern science. So particularly when we went to Jarrow, so he's buried in Durham, and which is very moving. The place of his tomb is very moving. It's in the west end of the Durham Cathedral, in a place called the is it the Galilee Chapel or something like that? No, I can't remember the name. But anyway, when we went to Jarrow, which is where he lived.
Yeah, and that Anglo-Saxon church.
There is, right. So there's a St. Paul's Church in Jarrow, which was part of his monastery.
Yeah.
And a significant piece of the structure, the chancel, which in Western church architecture, it's basically what is sort of almost equivalent to the sanctuary, or the holy place, or the altar area in an Eastern. But it's the part up towards the front anyway, and that is apparently almost all original. And so as we were standing there and touching the stones in those walls, we were touching stones that he himself would have touched. Yeah, he became much more present for me when we were there, particularly. But I think the thing that really, in many ways, brought him home to me was the fact that our two traveling companions, Deacon Seraphim and Father Jacob, are both like major
They're stands.
Bead stands.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was
They're
about to
bead
say.
stands,
Major
yeah.
bead stands. Like they,
Yeah.
And so I remember, for instance, especially when we brought Deacon Seraphim to Durham, and next to his tomb, he was clearly having a very important experience.
He was something was happening there.
Because he knew Bede very well
Yes.
for a long time. And so, like this, he's meeting one of his heroes, right? And Bede has not yet been that to me, but he's becoming more that for me. And the other thing that really struck me is that so as you know, I have 4 children, including 3 sons. One of my sons, I brought him back some stuff from Jarrow, a little icon of St. Bede and a Jarrow cross. And I think, I'm not going to say which one, but
Sure.
I hope, and I doubt he'll ever listen to this. I doubt it. My kids don't listen to my podcast.
Right.
So why would they?
Yeah.
But my prayer is actually that Bede would connect to him, and that I think that he could use him as a kind of another patron. So Bede became kind of part of the family for me in a way, and I want to get to know him better, have a sense of him as a saint, as a man.
Yeah.
So, how about for yourself? And there's saints that you want to get to know better.
Like all of them, I guess.
All of them.
I mean, it's kind of hard,
I know we kind of threw you into the deep end.
Totally.
For a lot of these saints.
Yeah, it's hard to like kind of choose out of all of them because.
Was there one that you had some sense of before we went, and then you're like, okay, now I need to, gain more of a sense of this saint.
Not the bandwagon, but I think Bede was one of them. Definitely Bede and Columba. I think those would be the 2.
I think Bede. I think because Bede is this historian and this scholar, that even though I'm a Christian and I love the Celtic and English saints, I think my main encounter with him was not as a saint.
Interesting.
But was as someone who was giving me these other stories.
You know what happened to me? Like I know that.
But now that's changing for me.
And and I was sitting there at his tomb there, and we're all sitting around. We're all praying and we're recording and taking pictures and stuff. But we're all also just sitting there.
Yeah. It was difficult because we're on pilgrimage and we just want to be.
Yes.
But we're there because we're giving this to other people.
Yes,
and but I felt like we had a really good balance.
Yes, I think we did too.
Of being, and when we did have the cameras and the microphones on, it was in a very respectful, venerating sort of way.
Yes, I think we did a pretty good job.
So I just had to say that.
No, I get it. I agree with you 100%. And I felt like we were never rushed. We took our time, saw what we needed to see, but also it took enough time to just be there and to pray. And I had a similar to what you said about my son with Bede, so in my tradition, we baptize, infants in my church. And so, when we baptized Isaac, his name is Isaac. So, St. Isaac, but I don't know, there's just something about Bede and like knowing like what he did and the things that he did and how intelligent he was, but also how prayerful he was and something connected. I felt like I connected with him and that he would like to connect with my son in some way as well. So
maybe you can bring him there someday.
I would love to bring him there someday.
You could do a Bede pilgrimage, which wouldn't be really taxing.
No, it wouldn't. It'd be just, and I can go to Evensong at the cathedral.
That was the one time I was like, we need to go.
Yeah, I know.
I felt a little bit bad.
It's all good. I heard them rehearsing, so it was fine.
Yes.
And I bought him a book. He still hasn't cracked it yet about Bede, like a kid's book at the cathedral store. So I don't know. I'm just that one's kind of up in the air for me, but I would like to get to know Bede a little bit better, and Columba, I think, are the major ones.
Any icons you plan to get?
Not right now. Yes, I would like some icons, but I'm just now moving them in my office to a spot. My wife is actually doing that today while we're here recording. She's like, I'll help you out. So she's hanging them in my office. I would probably like to get one of Bede and Columba and Ninian. I think those, something like that with those. I think those three stick out for me. I definitely feel like I encountered, St. Aidan and St. Cuthbert and St. Oran and surprisingly St. Andrew, the first called, But I think if I were to think about it, I think bead and Columba and Ninian, those would be, if I were to commission an icon, it would probably be of those three.
Yeah. So, okay, we let's talk locations.
Yeah.
Obviously, the thing about pilgrimage is it's about location.
Yeah.
So these are the places that the saints have touched, whether in their lifetimes or because their relics are there or were there. So what are some that really hit you?
The cave.
St. Ninian's Cave?
The cave, yeah. The effort that it took to get there.
There was some effort.
Right?
I don't think we thought that we could just drive there and
it's
get
like,
out.
yeah, we'll just drive and walk. It'd be great. The effort it took to get there.
I think the walk itself was like a couple of miles.
Yeah.
But not an easy couple miles.
It wasn't. And I'm like, I brought the wrong shoes for this. I totally did, but it was fine.
I was hurting. Yeah, you guys with your cloth shoes.
Yeah, well, they were made out of merino wool, and they're supposed to be waterproof, but they weren't.
Yeah, you guys had some wet feet.
Yeah, thank you, Allbirds. Super comfy though, I will say. Getting to the cave, encountering the wind and the waves and everything, and then when we got to the cave, how everything just died down.
Yes. The weather was almost like another pilgrim.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's like we were being greeted somehow.
Yeah. So number one, the weather, because you mentioned this,
Yeah.
Number one, the weather in the UK in October, especially in the northern part, is not generally good.
No.
So like on some level, it's like, why are we going in October? It's just, that's how it worked out. But what happened is that almost I was constantly checking the weather. Because I'm just obsessive like this. I want everything to go well, you know. And often the weather before we would arrive at a place would be rainy and windy and difficult and dark. And then the day that we were there, sunshine.
Yeah.
And then the day after we left, back to the rain. And so this was the case in almost every single place we went.
Yeah.
For 2 weeks.
That's true, yeah.
So it was really like the good weather was following us around. But then there were certain moments that we got wind and rain, and it actually, that was what was needed at that moment. And this walk to St. Ninian's Cave.
Yeah, it was one of those.
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was tough. I mean, that beach with the wet pebbles.
Yeah.
Like my ankles were going back and forth like this. like I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I am middle-aged. But then when we got to the cave, suddenly it stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. And praying in the cave, and I actually grabbed a stone and kind of rinsed it off and brought it with me, and then gave it to somebody when I came back that I thought could use it. That location struck me. Iona is going to be the top of the list for me.
It's got such a potency to it.
It's unlike any. It was very different from Lindisfarne. Like Lindisfarne was great, and I loved it, but it was very different from Iona. Probably partially because of, well, Iona is not as built up as Lindisfarne is. There's lots more vacation homes and hotels and pubs and stuff on Lindisfarne, and Iona.
Although listener, you shouldn't get the idea that there's a lot.
Right,
it's still mostly fields and stuff.
Yeah. So it's mostly fields and stuff, but Iona.
It's much more accessible. That's the thing.
Yeah, it is accessible. Yeah, so it's more accessible. But for me, I think Iona is the location that stuck with me the most and has stuck with me the most out of all of the beautiful places that we saw and went to.
Yeah, there's like if we were to construct a mountain
with a garden at the top
of all the locations that we went to, Iona is the top of the mountain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything else is on the mountain.
Yeah.
But there's an intensity, a potency, a power, a kind of rarefied atmosphere of Iona. I remember when I visited in 2001, when I was a much younger man, almost half the age I am now. The way I felt when I came away from that, as I said, that I felt that God is huddled down close next to the island. And that is the way that I felt again when we were there just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something about Iona. And there's apparently a tradition, a saying that you visit 3 times.
Yeah.
So now I'm just like,
how can
I used to think I'll never get to go there again,
Yeah.
and now I've been twice. And I'm thinking now, so wait, I get one more time? Is that what we're saying?
I'm on the ferry. We're on the ferry on the way back to Fianfort, and I'm like, okay, how can I get back here?
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
if
Like,
I
why
do
am
a
I
pilgrimage,
Why am I leaving?
Like we'll get my congregation together. We can do like a thing. Maybe we'll come here. How can we make this work? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Another location that struck me, which I didn't expect at all, was Bamborough.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yes, I was
Interesting,
surprised.
yeah.
So we stayed. So when we went to Lindisfarne, Bamborough is the place where we spent the night.
Yes.
And that was the place that Father Jacob had suggested, and I just thought, okay, it's this nearby town.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was where we were going to spend the night. No, I mean it is where we
Yeah.
spent the night. And that was the place where, as it happened, you and I had a room that was twice the size of the other guy's room.
Yep.
But
That's the favor of God right there.
that's a favorite guy.
Favor.
Um,
I was hoping for first class tickets, but you know what? I'll take a bigger hotel
That's
room.
right, that's
Walk in
right.
divine favor, baby.
but so number one, okay, so obviously, so Bamborough is very visually impressive because
Yeah.
of Bamborough Castle.
Sure.
Which, I mean, the castle itself is not associated with any of the saints, but the location was the location of essentially kind of a hill fort
Yeah.
that St. Oswald, again, like, unexpectedly Oswald. Which is the name of my next band, by the way.
That should be a book. Unexpectedly
Oswald.
The Adventures of a Young Teenage Oswald. Published by Ancient Faith.
Or Unexpectedly Oswald, my quirky indie band.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, so that was the location where he was, and that was the center of his kingdom. And from Bamborough, you can see Lindisfarne. From Lindisfarne, you can see Bamborough. And
Yes.
and there's actually a point where Penda was attacking Bamborough, and Aidan was on Lindisfarne and could see it because they were lighting it on fire. Because it's
Yeah.
not like Bamborough Castle now, which is a big stone edifice, big
Right.
stone edifice.
It's huge.
It was like a wooden fort. And apparently St. Aidan, when he was standing there in Lindisfarne in prayer and looked across and saw the flames and the smoke, his prayer was, God, do you see what Penda is doing? And then a wind came up off of the water and pushed back against Penda and the flames, and the fire came back on the heathen
Take
and
that.
drove them away. And so Bamborough was saved. Awesome. So that's cool. To be able to stand there and say, okay, so
Yeah.
this is where this happened. And, in the course of we had just been on Lindisfarne the day before, so we
Yep.
were seeing both ends of
Yep.
that amazing story. But then there's this parish church there in Bamborough. Now, Bamborough is a village with like 200 people or 300 people, something. It's small,
Yeah.
despite having this big castle.
Yeah.
But it was a regional capital back in the day. There's this parish church dedicated to St. Aidan of Lindisfarne. And why is that there? Because that's the spot that
Where he died. Yep.
And so
Yeah.
there's two things going on in that church that were just so incredible.
Yes.
One is the tradition is that he built this wooden church that was there. That's not the church that's there now. And then he leaned against a timber in that church as he died. And subsequently, the church burned down multiple times, and that timber was always left.
Yes.
It never burned. And now that timber forms part of the roof. So that's there. But then also in the chancel is a shrine at the very place
Yeah.
where he died.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah.
Again, another chance meeting. We go in there and here's this shrine. So yeah, Bamborough struck me. And I mean, I've loved St. Aidan for many, many years now.
Yeah.
I've loved St. Aidan. And I didn't know that there were these other places that you could go that were connected with him in this way. Like I didn't know that he had died in Bamborough. And obviously that's just a failure of research on my part.
Yeah.
But I mean, a number of these saints, their icons are in this room.
Yeah.
Like Columba is right here, over here on the wall. You've got Cuthbert. You've got some of these saints are right here. I have a Saint Aidan icon at home. I love these saints for a long, long time, and here I am like connecting with them in places that I didn't know that they were. So yeah, Bamborough, it's another place you're like, oh, I'm going on pilgrimage to Bamborough. Most people are like, what? Where, why? But sure enough, there's at least two saints that are directly connected with that place. You got Aidan and Oswald, who are friends with each other.
Yep.
Yeah. Were there other locations that really, really hit you?
Glasgow Cathedral, yeah.
Yeah. So dedicated to Saint Mungo.
Yep.
More
AKA
properly Saint
Kentigern.
What was it about Glasgow Cathedral that got you?
Well, part of it was,
And his his shrine, the place where his relics might still be,
yes,
is down underneath.
Down underneath.
Sort of a crypt, but big. I mean, it's a big crypt area.
So we walked in, and we were with Father Augustine, and because it was on Sunday after church, I believe we went there.
Yep, that afternoon.
And so there was this one part, I think it's the main area, like leading up to the chancel, and I don't know if there was a service going on or they were going to be practicing singing a little bit. And they actually were singing later. I walked in, and I just looked up, and I saw the chancel, the stained glass, and the arches, and everything, and it was so stunning. I actually had to like hold myself up on the pew like this, and I was overcome with just how beautiful it was. And then we went downstairs into the crypt area, and there was the tomb of Saint Mungo. And I wound up having a wonderful conversation with Father Augustine, the contents of which, sorry listeners,
you can keep it
to you, will remain private. But I have shared it with Father Andrew and Father Jacob and Deacon Seraphim. But yeah, it was even talking about it right now, it's kind of making me get emotional. But that's just what I do. I get emotional because I'm just a big old softie.
Michael's a weeper.
I really am. I cried so much on this trip. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Give me some testosterone shots or something. I'm just crying all the time. I was crying all the time. And just conversations, somebody's Father Jacob said something to me while we were drinking tea, and I was like, I'm writing it down, and it was just so much grace on this trip, and talking about. I'm glad we're talking about it because it's not reorienting me, but it's helping me to keep it fresh in my mind and in my memory.
Yeah.
But Glasgow Cathedral was, I think, a location. No, it was a location that struck me. You know what's interesting to me is the difference between Glasgow Cathedral and St. Giles Cathedral.
Yeah, so Glasgow Cathedral is named St. Mungo's Cathedral,
right,
or whatever, and St. Giles is the one in Edinburgh.
Yes.
And what's interesting is both churches, they were medieval Catholic churches.
Yes.
And now are both Church of Scotland, which is Presbyterian.
Yes.
But the Glasgow, the St. Mungo's, you kind of wouldn't hardly know that it had become Protestant church.
Yeah.
Whereas St. Giles.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very obvious. Yeah. It was such an interesting contrast for me, those locations. And how they
I mean, one thing that was notable to me is that I was a little bit mistaken when I got to St. Giles. I had thought that it was his main shrine of this saint. But no, it wasn't. But it did have once some relics of St. Giles, and so I was asking the people who were working there. I was like, so where was the shrine located?
Yeah,
and
they didn't know.
One knew.
Wow.
And that to me just struck me as
oh man,
wow.
What was funny to me about that? So St. Giles is a cathedral where John Knox preached.
Yes, and what's hilarious is there's a statue.
There's a statue, right?
Which these are major iconoclasts,
right?
Smashing statues and stuff.
Yeah, John Knox is responsible for St. Giles, is the destruction of religious art in St. Giles. And if you go to St. Giles, you will see
a beautiful church,
gorgeous church, still used for worship, beautiful church. But you will see a statue. Not quite life-size statue, but a very large statue of John Knox. And the irony was not lost on me. I'm standing here in an iconoclast Protestant cathedral with a statue of John Knox, and just above him, if you're looking at him over to the left, there is a stained glass window. And in the stained glass window are Saints Columba, Aidan, Cuthbert,
and they're looking down on him.
Andrew of Scotland,
judging him.
And they're all this. It's called the Saints Window, I think, and they're right there in the stained glass. And I was like, what is going on? So I'm like, Father Jacob, what? And he said, well, he's like, yeah. He goes, that stained glass window is probably, it was a Victorian era addition to the church.
Where there's this kind of romantic, reconnection. Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that makes more sense to me now. But those two things, it was just very funny to see John Knox and then all the Scottish saints
And the saints
in a
looking down at
window
him and
right up here
and
like
judging
this. And I'm like, I don't know where he is. I hope he's in a happy place. But this is very funny to me. And
Yeah.
I hope he gets to see some humor in it as well. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, next category is books that you plan to read or reread. And
Sure.
For me, it's
Ecclesiastical history.
it's this one. I've read it before, but it's been 20 some years.
Yeah.
And I felt a little embarrassed at how much
Yeah.
I had forgotten when we were on our trip.
Yep.
And so as a result, Father Jacob and Deacon Seraphim, of course, the big bead stands, were like, Father, you have
got
to
to.
reread this.
Yep.
Like, what's wrong with you? You know. Although, you know, it's just the way that it shook out that I hadn't reread it recently, and so I was able to then just hear these stories from them directly and kind of reconnect to them. you
Yep.
know. But yeah, I really need to dig into that. And of course, you know, I've actually never read anything else by Bede.
Yeah.
But there's other works.
Sure.
You know, he did a Life of St.
Commentaries,
Cuthbert,
yeah.
and there's some other things, you know, as well. So yeah, I need to get back into that. And what's amazing is that Bede, even though he is definitely this English saint, he's talking about Iona and he's talking about the Ionian mission. In fact,
Yeah.
our pilgrimage in a lot of ways is kind of the Iona to northern England
Right.
mission
Yeah. Yeah.
is what's going on.
Kind of followed that path.
So Bede is a great one. And actually, before we left, I even said that Bede is one of the patrons of our pilgrimage because he's the one who gives us actually so much of the story.
Yeah.
So many of the stories, you know, as well. So yeah, I need to crack this open again, and I have plans to, and I always have a few books going at once, and so I should add this and get back into it. You know, especially while it's fresh, and you know, while we're still working on the documentary and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot more to come, everybody. Lots
Yeah.
more to
There's
come.
still so much content to come.
So yeah, how about you? Any books that you plan to read or reread as a result of this pilgrimage?
The Life of St. Columba and also Ecclesiastical History. I think those are the two I'm going to ask for my wife for my birthday.
There you go. A lot of listeners are going to be coming away with like, okay, I need to be.
Right. They're like, I
into
need to
Bede.
reread.
Clearly,
Columba.
Bede is.
Yeah, he's clearly important. Columba's important. We get it. Get over it.
Okay, so my final category of stuff to reflect on. We had a lot of unexpected encounters.
Yes.
People, places, whatever. What's one that really struck you?
I think the answer is one that we're both going to stick with is the Hill of the Angels.
So what's the story there? Do you know it off the top of your head?
The Hill of the so St. Columba went up this hill I think 4 times in his life, and he had visions where God would show him things like things to come and things that were happening, and he had visions of the angelic host coming to him there on the hill. And so we were like, we need to go to this hill. And so
I should say though, an important piece of the story is the reason why it's known that he talked there with the angels.
Oh, because the monk that followed him.
Because there was one time a monk that followed him disobediently.
Yes. Yeah, the monk followed him and
saw him doing this.
Yeah.
And of course, Columba knew that he was there.
Yes.
And it obviously was permitted by the will of God.
Yes.
And then later, Columba confronted this monk and said, you know, God permitted this, but don't you dare talk to anybody about it while I'm still alive.
Yeah, wait till I'm dead, yeah.
And so then after he dies, then the story is told, you know.
Yes.
So, but the point is that God permitted this to happen so that the story would be told. Columba would be spared the sort of attack on his humility that would happen if it became like, oh, wow, he talks to angels, you know.
Who does he think he is?
Right, exactly. Yeah. But then all the rest of us could be edified by it after his repose. So so that's where that happens, is this hill. It's not a big hill.
It's very small.
It's about a mile or so walk from the main kind of village area on Iona. Not an easy walk.
Yeah.
But when you get to the hill, it is a little steep to get up there, but it's very grassy.
It's beautiful.
Very picturesque. You can see for long distance.
Like we posted photos. Yeah, and it's right next to like some houses actually. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, so you go to the top. We went to the top of this hill, and Deacon Seraphim had an acrostic hymn that Columba had written to God. And so we prayed
Ancient of Days.
Ancient of Days.
Altus Prosator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went up to the top of the hill, and there was a pilgrim there. And so you guys interviewed him, and he agreed to like take the video of us. So, and the video is posted now on YouTube. So we start going through this acrostic hymn of praise to God, Ancient of Days. And so we're all taking our turns reading it. And as we're doing it, the wind just starts kicking up out of nowhere.
And the rain.
In the rain. Like you can see in the video, like I'm trying to hold the sheets of paper, and because if I let it go, it's going to...
Simon did an incredible job at filtering out the wind sound, but if you look at it visually,
you can see
and
it.
This is on the Orthodox Pilgrim YouTube channel.
Yeah.
You can see everything is...
Yeah.
You know?
I didn't think it would come out at all, honestly, when we were recording it, but the wind just kicked up, the rain kicked up. And then as we're filming it, and as we're about halfway through it, the guy who's filming it steps back.
He starts stepping back, and we're like, okay, I guess he's trying to do a little cinematic something here, whatever.
But what had happened was a giant rainbow appeared in the sky behind us while we're praying this prayer. No. So afterwards, and we don't know this until after the filming is over.
No, yeah,
so
we don't know.
I have to say this. On the way to Iona, I was fishing in my pockets for something. And I found a little medal that I had from when I bought a prayer rope, and it had St. Michael the Archangel on it. And so I was like, oh, this is in my pocket. I wondered what happened to this. And I'm like, why am I only discovering this now? And I'm like, oh, that's nice. And I threw it back in my pocket. While we're on the Hill of the Angels, after all this, I was like, oh. So I reached into my pocket, and I pulled out the little medallion of St. Michael the Archangel, and I said to Father Jacob, I'm like, can I bury this here? Is that appropriate? He's like, yeah, absolutely. So I knelt down in the grass, and I dug a little hole, and I put the little medal of St. Michael the Archangel on the top of the Hill of the Angels, covered it up, and then I was a weeper, so I put my hood over my head, and I just walked to the edge of the hill by myself while everybody else was talking, and I just started crying and just praying. I just started praying for departed family members for some reason. Prayed for my grandma, prayed for my father especially, and just crying. And Father Jacob saw me, and he came up to me, and he was very kind. And he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good." So I was just there, just taking time. But it was, I feel like the weather kicking up, the wind kicking up. I couldn't help but feel like that was the Angelic Host was there with us, worshiping with us. And even talking about it, it's just making me all, it's making me all weepy and stuff. But it was so strong there. So it was, I can't describe how it was for me. I can't say how it was for everybody else. But for me, it was so strong up there, the presence of the Lord.
That reminds me of a year plus ago where I was with Father Jacob and one of my sons. We were mostly in Wales, but we went down to Cornwall, and then on our way back from Cornwall, we stopped in Glastonbury.
Yeah.
Glastonbury has a place called Glastonbury Tor, and Tor just means hill, and it's quite a steep hill. There used to be a church up on top of it. All that's left now, it was a church dedicated to the Archangel Michael. Yeah. And all that's left now is one of the towers from the facade.
Okay.
And so if you look up Glastonbury Tor and you see the photos, it's just a hill, and there's a singular tower, which looks like it was just built there just to be there. But it's actually what's left of a church. And it has, it's open to the weather, front and back doors, it's just open, and you look straight up and it's open to the top. There's no roof as well. And so it creates this wind tunnel. And when we went up there, the wind started picking up, the rain started picking up, and it was just this, and so it was just like, okay, it's like the Archangel Michael is up here with his wings, and he's present, with us. That was the experience we had, and it was, it was very difficult just to hold our stuff together there because there was really strong wind up on Glastonbury Tor. Yeah. So what was really interesting to me, one of the things that was interesting to me about the Hill of the Angels was we went up there and we were talking, we were filming, whatever, and there's this man approached. Yeah. And he was standing at the bottom of the hill, kind of, I could tell, I looked down and I saw him and he was waiting. Yeah. And I just kind of motioned. I was like, come on up. So he comes up and we start talking to him. And I said, so what are you doing here? He says, well, I'm a pilgrim. And I was like, well, that's what we're here. We're pilgrims as well. And he's like, I was just waiting, I was respectful. He's like, no, join us, let's talk. And I asked him, I said, we're making a documentary. Can I interview you? And he said, absolutely. And so, God willing, this will get into the documentary, especially if we can clean up the wind sound or whatever.
Yeah.
But I asked him, I said, so what is it that you're doing here? And he says, well, I'm a pilgrim. And he said, I'm searching for the pearl of great price. And I think this is the field that it's buried in. And that really hit me.
Yeah.
Just this utter sincerity. And like, it was,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know what his theology was,
Sure,
or anything like that.
Yeah.
But at that moment, we were there for the same reason. And yeah, one of our many chance meetings with other people, with other pilgrims. In this case, he was very self-consciously a pilgrim. We met other people
Yeah.
who didn't know that they were pilgrims, but learned it as they went.
Right. That's right.
Yeah, God bless him. His name is Stephen. And I asked him at one point, I said, what are your hopes for coming to, to Iona? He says, I hope that I can bring my family here. He says, I have 5 children and I hope I can bring them here. And that's a good hope, so yeah. I mean, this is just a little sample of some of the
there's
stuff that we
more
experienced.
stories, more experiences.
There's so much
the
more,
beach.
but yeah.
All these other places.
Yeah. Well, I thought we could wrap up this particular episode with a listener email.
Wow, we haven't done an email in a while.
Yeah.
All right.
And this email, actually, I've been seeing on this email for a long time.
Yeah.
Not on purpose. It just didn't come up,
We get so many, it's just hard to answer them all.
We do, exactly. You very nicely answer a lot of them.
I do.
So this email, or actually arrived in our email in July of 2019.
Yep.
So
Wow.
it's over 6 years old, and it comes from a listener named Richard Rowland.
Ooh, he sounds like a nice guy.
So I thought I would read what he had to say.
Yeah, let's do
and
it.
then and we could talk briefly about it. And I know that you had a response that you sent.
I did, yeah.
So you can tell us what your response is.
Sure.
So Richard writes this. He says, first of all, thank you for this podcast.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. He says, you two are the car talk guys of ancient faith. Don't ever cut out the "What have we been doing" segment, and don't ever make your episodes shorter. I enjoy the long listen. Obviously, this is a big fan. And yes, I was slapping my steering wheel when Pastor Mike mentioned this present darkness.
So it's funny that you mentioned this in this letter, Richard. I was texted by a friend this morning, and I'll ask him if I can do this. I'll put the pictures in the Areopagus group on Facebook. But he has a storybook about groundhogs or prairie dogs for his daughter.
Okay.
And in the book, there's like a
that those are
bird.
not the same animal, right?
Yeah, it's a prairie dog. It's a prairie dog. So
That's really.
I know. I couldn't remember which one it was.
Okay,
It's a prairie dog, and then in the top corner is like a bird swooping down with its talons.
Oh yes.
And then he sent me a picture. He's like, it reminded me of this, and he sent me a picture of this present darkness with the demon talons and the clouds coming down from the sky.
The cover.
And then I was like, oh, that's so perfect. And then we read this wonderful letter, and I'm like, all the pieces come together.
Yeah. Okay, so Richard goes on to say, he says, I'm a Germanic philologist. Tolkien's discipline, as I'm sure you both know, and in fact, some of his students were my professors. I'm also a convert to the Eastern Orthodox Church, thanks in no small part to the sacramental realism which undergirds Tolkien's whole legendarium. In any case, I wanted to address the matter of Numenor in That Hideous Strength, which you really need to get around to reading, Father Andrew. So obviously this is a reference to one of our earlier episodes. I have gotten around to reading That Hideous Strength.
And I feel like demons really are in cahoots with the government after reading that book and seeing how things are going on right now.
Can you be in one cahoot? Yeah. Is it always plural?
Yeah, I don't know. Is it cahoot or cahoots?
In cahoots.
Yeah.
Okay. At the time Lewis was writing, he had heard much of the material which would later become the history of the Second Age of Middle-earth, particularly a story called The Lost Road, which should be the subject of an Amansul podcast sometime. That's a good idea, Richard.
Maybe you should do it.
Tolkien and Lewis, noting that there were not enough of the kinds of stories in this world that they liked, decided they would do something about the problem. Tolkien agreed to write a time travel story, and Lewis agreed to write a space travel story. Lewis's completed story becomes the first book in his space trilogy. Tolkien's time travel story, The Lost Road, was never finished. He left off working on it to publish a story called The Hobbit. Have you ever read that one?
I've heard of it.
Okay. But it connects the history of Iron Age Europe directly to the history of Middle-earth, and it is the genesis of the Numenor story. Later, actually in the middle of finishing The Lord of the Rings, Tolkien would try to handle the subject matter again in a wonderful story called The Notion Club Papers, which was both a time travel story and a self-parody of the Inklings. Inkling equals notion. Mm-hmm. It's one of my favorite things that Tolkien ever wrote. It's also probably lucky he didn't finish it, otherwise we would have never gotten The Lord of the Rings. It's notable in that it references Lewis's space trilogy as a kind of historical document, the way the space trilogy references Numenor. This brings us to the issue of spelling. Lewis had heard the Numenor material, but had probably never actually seen a manuscript. As a result, he, like any good medievalist, spelled it the way it sounded.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, you sent a very nice letter back.
Yeah.
Why don't you just read that
Sure.
as our response to this?
All right. Richard, if you're listening, thank you so much for listening to the Areopagus and taking the time to email us. Germanic philology sounds like an interesting field of study.
Yeah.
I took some German in high school and was even supposed to go abroad to learn it, but sadly never kept up with it, as when I moved schools, I had to switch to Spanish. I remember Lewis mentioning Numenor in that hideous strength, and being a Lord of the Rings fan, I squealed with joy when I read it. Interesting that he spelled it wrong, though. I'm glad that their friendship helped spur each other to write seminal works that have lasting impact and value. Again, thanks for listening. If you stick with it, we'll keep making them.
It's always nice to hear from fans.
Yes.
And so keep writing to us. We're very happy to
And
hear
Richard,
from
if we ever meet IRL, I will sign your Bible.
There we go. So, well, that's the episode.
Well, that's the end. Thank you for listening, Areopagites. We would love to hear from you either via email at areopagus@ancientfaith.com, or you can message us at our Areopagus podcast Facebook page.
Hey, and if you share this with your friends and you click on the subscribe, rate, review, notification buttons, whatever you got in front of you, then more people can get to know this most beloved of Ancient Faith Radio podcasts.
If you get a benefit from this podcast or other Ancient Faith media, go to ancientfaith.com/support and click the money-giving buttons, because that's how this thing works.
I'm Father Andrew Stephen Raven Damick.
And I'm Pastor Mike. I got nothing for this one, Landsman.
And this has been a listener-supported presentation of Ancient Faith Radio.